3. So and so. This is what's going on. You don't hear a lot of buzz about Squid Games 3. There's not a lot of content creators generating content surrounding Squid Games 3, and I think I know why. But first, let's backtrack. When Squid Games 1 came out, it was something that was different. It was something that was new. I felt like Netflix didn't know they had a hit on their hand until they launched it on their platform, and it was a huge hit. And the reason why I like the original Squid Games was, to me, it wasn't a serious dialogue where you have to be heavily involved, where you have to really pay attention. It wasn't like the characters that were favorable or had huge storylines. Basically, the essence of Squid Game, and it pretty much is in all of these seasons. Look, they find a bunch of desperate people who's willing to do anything to get out of their situation. All these people have situations of some form of debt. So they take part of these games and hope that they win the game so they'll have the money to get out of these debts. Okay, that's the beginning. That's pretty much the premise of Squid Games. And season 1 was so simple. It was so simple-minded. It wasn't that the dialogue wasn't heavily distorted. You had to really figure things out. It was just mindless, brainless fun. It had some humor elements in it, but none of the characters were memorable. No one remembers none of these characters. No one put a lot of stock in these characters. These were pretty much disposable characters. We're not really paying attention to the characters. We're not really paying attention to the storyline. We're just paying attention to this show because it had some elements of a game show / reality show, even though it was a series. Squid Games 1 was a huge hit for Netflix. So much of a huge hit, they came out with Squid Games 2. And I said, cool, they're coming out with Squid Games 2. I figured, hey, it's going to be similar to Squid Games 1. Squid Games 2 pandered a little bit away from what made Squid Games 1 so popular. Squid Games 2 did have some elements of 1. It wasn't, it didn't have elements. It didn't have a lot of elements of comedic stuff going on. The storyline was below average. Again, the characters, you wasn't really paying attention to the characters, the development of the characters, you really weren't paying attention because there's really no development in these characters. They're throwaway characters. But I felt like Squid Games 2 was trying to do something different. It was trying to be serious. And it kind of peeled away from the game show element, the reality show element. It was trying to be something serious. And when I mean serious, it was trying to be a real serious drama with elements of humor. And it has some nudity in it if you're into that. But I thought Squid Games 1 was better than Squid Games 2. I still watched it. It was okay. But then the one thing I like about Squid Games 1, it was mindless, brain dead fun. But there was really no plot line, and then there was no continuation. Now, there was elements of continuation of Squid Games 1, but it wasn't like you had to watch Squid Games 1 to understand Squid Games 2. If you are not a fan of Squid Games, if you haven't watched none of the Squid Game seasons, you can just jump right into whatever season you like, and you won't miss a beat. Okay? But Squid Games 2 was trying to be a little bit more realistic. Well, not, have some type of story to it. And it was trying to be more mature than Squid Games 1. And I think that's where they messed up at, in my opinion. But I still watched Squid Games 2. It was okay, but it wasn't better than Squid Games 1. Squid Games 3, I found out there's Squid Game. We were going to have Squid Games 3. And I'm saying to myself, why are we having a Squid Games 3? Because Squid Games 1 was great. It was popular. It was hype. Everyone was thrilled to talk about it, to see it. Squid Games 2 was a dud. It wasn't as big as Squid Games 1. You just thought it was going to stop there. So when I found out there was a Squid Games 3 and 1, like, what was the purpose of having Squid Games 3? Because Squid Games 2, it wasn't as good as Squid Games 1. So then we get Squid Games 3. We get now the story that Squid Games 3 is trying to pair the storyline from Squid Games 1 and Squid Games 2. And they have certain characters. I don't want to, spoil the whole movie or the whole all 3 of the seasons, because there's some people out there that haven't seen neither of these seasons. Okay, so the best way I can describe it to you, there's a character who's in part of all of these seasons from Squid Games 1, 2, and 3 that's in these seasons, and there's certain characters throughout from 1 to 3, and they have a connection. And now you understand why these games were created in the first place. Squid Games 1 made it sound like these games were created because, hey, these people are desperate, they need money, so are they willing to do anything to get out of their debts? Squid Games 2, you started seeing the evolution behind the curtain, sort of say, of how massive these games are. And then Squid Games 3, you start to see it's much deeper than a madman allowing these contestants to off one another for the jackpot. It's a much deeper story than that. Okay, so I watched Squid Games 3, and I'll be honest with you, if they're thinking about making a Squid Games 5, I'm not going to watch Squid Games 5, because they tried to, I like Squid Games 1. And Squid Games 1 and Squid Games 3 are totally 2 different shows and theories. Now they're trying to add elements in Squid Games 3 of, oh, no. Remember what we told you about the Squid Games in season 1? Well, forget all that. We're thinking this is more deeper than that. Introduce Squid Games 3. And I can understand if they was heading to this point, and Squid Games 2, season 2 was the bridge between 1 and 3, but it's like 3 different projects. They have really no connection other than the storyline, and the storyline is not that great. It's not a storyline that you're going to follow alone. And the only reason why there's a connection with all of these seasons is because of the main character. The main character is from season 1, season 2, and season 3. Other than that, that's it. Okay. But, I will say this. Season 3 of Squid Games, they went places they didn't go with the characters than what they did in 2 and 1. I will say that. And there's a surprise twist in season 3 that you didn't expect. But if you really think about it, why wouldn't you expect it? All right. So I feel like Squid Games 3 is trying to be an upgrade. It's trying to be better than the original one, the OG season 1. But to me, I was entertained, but to me, Squid Games, it should be a simple, brainless season where you just go into it, you enjoy the episodes, you watch the episodes, and you move on to the next thing. I feel like they're trying to make Squid Games more than what it is. And to me, my opinion with Squid Games is it's not. Look, Squid Games it was trying to take elements of what you have seen in other shows and other movies that went this route, and you wonder why people are not clamoring for that type of content. You know, the desperation, like these characters are so desperate, they're willing to do anything to get out of this desperation, even go to a game show on a faraway island to make money, to become millionaires, or to pay off the debts of their bills and things like that, when it shouldn't even be that it shouldn't even be that deep. Okay. But yeah, I wasn't happy with Squid Games 3, but hey, it is what it is. um and you know, if I wouldn't say don't watch Squid Games 3. If there's something out there, then by all means. If there's nothing out there, then watch Squid Games. Like I said, it's you can turn your brain off, watch it. Don't you have to spend a whole lot of time. That you have to dedicate a lot of time to Squid Games, and you move on to the next thing. But when you got Sinners on HBO Max, you got Paradise. I watched Paradise, even though it's a year old. It's a year old. Paradise to me was a lot better than Squid Games. It's just so many other movies and TV shows that fall in this same premise that are better than Squid Games 3. But look, if you've never seen Squid Games, I suggest to you go watch Squid Games 1. And once you watch Squid Games 1, if you want to watch Squid Games 2, fine, by all means. You can literally watch Squid Games 1 and Squid Games 3. See, you can watch Squid Games season 1 and Squid Games season 3 without even watching season 2. You can literally skip seasons or just watch Squid Games 3, season 3. I don't Out of the 3, I feel like 3 is the worst one. 1 is better than 2, but hey, if you want to watch it that way, fine, by all means. Okay. So yeah. Moving on.